All right, so Tyrion again, awesome. Tyrion III from A Storm of Swords. let's sink our teeth into it, because the chapter opens at a small council session. So politics. We all love a good politics chapter. This is promising. Of course, first of all, it's a rather different small council configuration in the post Blackwater battle era. For one thing, the hand of the king is a different guy. It's Tywin, and the lords Mace Tyrell, Paxter Redwine, and Mathis Rowan are now members of the council. Grandmaster Pycelle has been restored to it, although he looks kind of like a shadow of his former self, and that's not at all surprising, given that the man has done time in a black cell. Because you remember, Tyrion found out about Pycelle being entirely in Cersei's pocket in a Clash of Kings, Tyrion V, having played his little game, planting info of Myrcella being sent to Dorne via Pycelle and waiting to see how long this piece of intelligence would reach Cersei, which it did in like 0.5 seconds. So anyway, Pycelle was apprehended shortly after that, Tyrion having the authority apparently to just randomly place people in prison. Yeah, no recourse. Human rights in this universe are sort of like very sketchy. Cersei successfully but unsuccessfully. Okay, let me repeat that a bit slower. Cersei successfully but unsuccessfully tried to order Tyrion to have the man released via Lancel, you might remember, move that backfired, but eventually Tyrion did agree to release him, only after extracting a certain bit of info from Lance, about his indiscretions with Cersei, but that's another story. So yeah, Pycelle, a frail old man, having done time in a medieval cell, that's not something I would recommend. And Pycelle has never really recovered. He has lost weight. His beard won't grow back to its former luxuriant bushiness. Is that a word? Is that a word even? So the now reinstated Grandmaster picks a chair as far away as possible from Tyrion, short of sitting on Tywin's lap. I don't blame him. In fact, I think I have discussed this in a previous commentary, and it's one of George R.R. Martin's most clever tricks to get us readers to sort of sympathize for a character that ultimately is a bit of a villain. I mean, I think he said as much in interviews. He's not the first author to do that, but the way he does it is by disguising this villainous nature behind a sort of an anti-hero facade. It makes it more acceptable to us readers. And but then he slowly sort of like raises the temperature, on the boiling frog. The boiling frog being us readers. Weird metaphor, but there you go. And incidentally, in what capacity is Tyrion even invited to the small council right now? Because I mean, we know that the newcomers, Tyrell, Rowan, Redwine, are there because they have been awarded a seat on the council after their contributions in the Battle of the Blackwater, due to their heroism and whatnot. In fact, Mace Tyrell has even been given the office of Master of Ships. But Tyrion, he was act in hand, but just as long as his father Tywin was absent. Right now, Tywin is back, so what is he doing there? We'll find out. And right now, as Tyrion looks around at these new members of the board, he's a bit gutted because all this reshuffling has been done in his absence, while he lay delirious in bed. So in his own words, the rules have changed, and no one will bother to tell me what the new rules are. I mean, he's praised by these new lords, for the idea of having that massive iron chain built and installed at the mouth of the Blackwater River, which trapped the enemy fleet, Stannis' fleet. So they all pat him on the shoulder. Oh, jolly good, Tyrion, jolly good. Well done. That was really rather clever, old boy. Have a sip of brandy. But in the meantime, all Tyrion can think about is the fact that singers just all over town can't stop going on about Renly's ghost, supposedly spotted on the battlements by several people. And of course it was Renly, right? Because that was totally his armor, and no one could possibly have worn it other than Renly's ghost. It's the only rational explanation. And we meet Tywin's brother Kevin again. Oh, nice to see you again, Kevin. Here he is, in the fiercest nepotist tradition we are now used to. He's, of course, the master of law, his predecessor having been the above-mentioned Renly, brother to the late King Robert. So, there you go. Kevin and Lannister. It does kind of sound like a law firm. And they hug, uncle and nephew. Well done, Tyrion, recovering. Oh, good to see you. Well, the relationship is amicable, amiable. What's the word? And then, for now, anyway, at this stage and in this particular novel, it is. So Tyrion inquires about his son, Lancel, Kevin's son, Lancel. And so how is he doing? What about his wound, which he suffered in battle? And I find it funny that Kevin just goes, oh, it is worrisome. Your sister often visits his sickbed to lift his spirits and pray for him. I say I find it funny because, okay, perhaps not funny, haha. But this is the same Cersei who may actually be responsible for the wound not healing. Because I don't know if you remember, dear listener, when they were both in Maegor's holdfast and arguing about Joffrey being brought back to safety, the city under siege. And at some point, Cersei lost her patience with him, with Lancel, and, quote, slammed her open palm into his wound. Sir Lancel cried out in pain and almost fainted as the queen swept from the room. I don't know. It certainly didn't help, is what I think. It all happened right there in Clash of Kings, Sansa 6. So, yeah. And what if Kevin ever found out about the Cersei and Lancel, engaging in a bit of the old hanky-panky every now and then, huh? Anyway, it's not like the relationship between Kevin and his niece Cersei will remain harmonious forever. Say no more, say no more. I don't know if I said it before, but I have a no spoiler policy here. In the off chance that you, gentle listener, happen to be a first-time reader in this series, I will only be looking back and not forward. So anyway, the first item on the agenda is war. What did you expect? So we begin with an update from Varys, a piece of news that's simply delicious. Oh, you will find this piece of news simply delicious. In his own words, the attack on Duskendale by the two companies of Northmen, one led by Robert Glover and the other led by Helman Talhart, has failed. Talhart is actually reported dead. So this is how it went down. Those two companies took a massive beating from Randall Tarley's army. And Glover is now in retreat, trying to get back to Harrenhal. But little does he know that Gregor Clegane is out there somewhere ready to intercept him. Ouch. There you go. And if you remember, this whole Duskendale campaign was really a bit pointless because from the Northmen's strategic sort of point of view, it was ordered by Roose Bolton back in Harrenhal, a Clash of King, Area 10. And weirdly, here in Tyrion 1, we find out that somehow... No. Tyrion 1, no, not here. Here, by now, it is well known. The first time we find out that Tywin knew about the whole thing was back in Tyrion 1. And that Tywin had ordered Tarly and Clegane to go out there and deal with the Northmen. To which Tyrion scratched his head because what the hell was of such strategic importance in Duskendale to decide to prompt Roose to decide to dispatch these two guys to Duskendale? And what was the point? And B, how did Tywin know so much about this whole plan? Huh? How did he have such prior inside knowledge of the Northmen's strategies? I mean, if one didn't know better, one might be tempted to think that the whole Duskendale thing was a deliberate trap for Glover and Tallhart. But that could only mean that Roose Bolton was part of a conspiracy and indeed in cahoots with Tywin. But that couldn't possibly be, right? And it's funny because Tyrion, he's following the council meeting and in his mind we can see that all he has is contempt for all of these machinations, particularly for Mace Tyrell. He doesn't particularly respect this guy. Tyrell being all busy strategizing and saying things like, why, of course Robb Stark is going to abandon Riverrun and retake Moat Cailin, currently held by the Ironborn. That's what I would do. And Tyrion is all like, yeah, whatever, mate. Yeah, never mind what you would do. You don't know nothing. You haven't got 2 military victories to rub together. Peter Baelish doesn't miss an opportunity to be all smug and pretend to be upset that his newly acquired Harrenhal is currently occupied by Roose Bolton and the bloody mummers and goats, as he puts it, because Vargo Hoat, and as if he ever planned to even set foot in that bloody place. And then on the subject of Ironborn, the potential alliance with Balon Greyjoy is discussed, apparently. Balon wrote Tywin a letter telling him, look, I'll leave you alone if you recognize me as king of everything north of the neck, which sounds suspiciously like the title King in the North. Tut, tut, tut. The great John Umber would not be impressed. He's the one who keeps shouting, King in the North. Yeah. Cersei contributes with her predictable, how dare he, this squid of a man. How dare he? He should be pledging, loyalty, fealty, whatever, to us, to the crown, not make demands. Tyrell and Redwine just, shrug their shoulders and go, why not? I say, could be done. No one sane of mind would want to claim anything north of the neck anyway. What do we care? They don't seem to have a very clear idea of what a realm is, what what constitutes the realm, and why they call it Seven Kingdoms, even though that's not an entirely accurate definition. Be it as it may, Tywin is not letting out any. He's wearing his poker face and gives no hints as to how he feels about the whole thing. Not for now, anyway. But next, we have a move that I love. A pivotal sort of turn of events that will ripple in lots of future chapters. The Lysa Arryn question. Okay, so Tywin asks, it's kind of rhetorical because you get the impression, later confirmed, that all the decisions have already been taken behind closed doors. Sort of like the World Economic Forum, those things. So Tywin asks, what's to be done with Lysa? Her husband was buddies with Stannis. Her sister is Catelyn Stark. She never swore loyalty to his current king. I mean, need I say more? And the new council members just go, meh, leave her be, the usual refrain goes, oh, well, she's a woman. What does she know? She clearly has no appetite for wars or battles or loyalty. The folly of a woman, clearly. Leave her be. Tyrion, on the other hand, he has a personal, score to settle with Lysa. He would like to deal with her personally and to exact revenge on the Eyrie. Even though, when you think about it, he kind of already has, arming the clansmen, which currently plague the Vale. But he still goes as far as to propose to move war against Lysa, at which point Mace Tyrell, doesn't miss the chance to patronize the hell out of Tyrion. And oh dear, Tyrion. You do say the darnest things, bless you. Better men than you have found at their expenses that the Eyrie is impregnable, which it actually is. I mean, it's true. It's truth be told, it is impregnable. The way it is designed, and they chose the worst possible spot to build it. Although it's also a very impractical place to lock oneself in, and uninhabitable in the winter, as it can be reached and or supplied of all necessary supplies, as we'll find out in Book 4, indeed. But anyway, Tywin cuts the argument short and just goes, no. We have someone right here. Right here, men. Where? There. Here. Yeah, men. Right there. I don't know why he came out with that accent. Who can help bring the Vale around. And that someone is Littlefinger. Of course, it's a lot more vulgar. Yeah, I hold the key right here between my legs, you know what I mean? But yeah, here's the plan. He said Lord Baelish will travel to the Eyrie, marry Lysa, and turn her and her son Robert into the most loyal subjects like ever. Bada bing, bada boom. Simple enough, huh? And by the way, so Robert Arryn, this has nothing to do with this, but Robert Arryn, there's something that still bugs me. And I'm not asking this rhetorically. Where was he going to be fostered? With Tywin at Casterly Rock or with Stannis at Dragonstone? Because throughout Book 1, Game of Thrones, there seems to be this sort of like back and forth. Oh, was he? Oh, because I thought, oh, really? Oh. And I don't know. Maybe I missed something, but I don't think this thing is ever resolved. If you, gentle listener, happen to have any insights, don't hesitate to let me know. Because there you go. That confusion, I don't know, I don't feel it's ever explained. Anyway, other council members express reservations at Littlefinger's plan. But surely, Lord Baelish, how can you be so certain she will have you? Well, I will have you know that Lysa and I often used to engage in a bit of the old, at which point he just gives the council the universal gesture, you know the one, forming a hoop with two fingers of one hand and sliding the finger of the other hand through it repeatedly. Yeah, we used to do a bit of the old observe, watch this. This is Lysa and me. Okay, all right, we get the point. The keys in your legs. All right. Cersei objects, of course. Yeah, well, mate, yeah, that's not the same as marrying her. Have you have you noticed how Cersei, for all the strategic thinking that she attributes herself, doesn't actually contribute one iota thereof, strategic thinking or any vaguely constructive diplomatic solutions? Hashtag just saying. But this is where Tyrion places it all together. Yeah, this is Littlefinger's plan. You slimy dog, he thinks. You scheming little bitch. Dog, bitch. Now it's all clear. You were never interested in Harrenhal or all its amenities, the great location, parking facilities. None of that property has ever interested you, really. It's the Lord title you are after, you devious social climber. A title that now makes your marriage to highborn Liza somehow acceptable with the confines of our society and culture. And basically, that'll make you the de facto warden of the East, because Robin is, like 9? And he's hardly taking any decisions. He doesn't know what's what. He's hardly in charge. All he's interested in is having people pushed out of his bleeding moon door and plunged to their deaths. I speak for personal experience. This is still Tyrion thinking, because we are, after all, in Tyrion's head. So this is one of his thought bubbles. Kevin, of course, is all like, oh, what a splendid idea my brother just had. Here. Yeah, but that's nothing new. The only council member to voice his concern is Tyrion, who just points out that there will be no Chancellor of the Exchequer. You know what I mean? Secretary of Treasury. Minister of Budget, whatever. Master of Coin, all right? And that is the position will remain vacant because in King's Landing, because Peter will be away. And once again, we have the confirmation that Tywin has already taken all the major decisions with key players in private, behind closed doors, because both Tywin and Littlefinger know perfectly well who the new Master of Coin will be. And that will be none other than Tyrion Lannister. The one person who didn't know was actually Tyrion. But hey, what are you going to do? So Littlefinger assures the council that he'll be leaving the next day on a ship that awaits him. He's got all the details, down to the ship's name, come on, which happens to be called the Merlin King. I mean, really, they don't exactly make an effort to even conceal the fact that all key decisions have already been taken. And Peter Baelish says he'll leave in the morrow. And oh, well, I guess I'll miss the wedding. Oof, shoot. But does he really leave in the morrow? Huh? I'll say this right now, dear listener, in case it hadn't occurred to you. It's always a good policy to keep reminding oneself, no matter what chapter you happen to be reading, especially here in Book 3, keep reminding yourself, where is Littlefinger at right now? Ostensibly and in reality. Because he tends to disappear for huge chunks of a novel. We don't know what he's up to, like in A Clash of Kings, when he was sent to Highgarden, Bitterbridge more specifically, to form a Lannister-Tyrell alliance and propose a marriage between Marjorie and Joffrey. And allegedly that was all he did, but we'll see. Maybe he did something else on the side. And then he disappeared for like 30 chapters, to the point that a first-time reader might have even forgotten about that character, which you shouldn't do. So right now, let's put a pin on it. This is the point in the story where Littlefinger allegedly leaves for the Vale, or so he says. We then briefly return to the matter of this Lannister Greyjoy alliance, because Mace is all in favor, given that he figures he could use the Iron Fleet as a newly appointed master of ships. Oh, Mace, Mace, Mace. Why are you so eager to jump in bed with those lunatics? Anyway, Tywin just goes, look, this Balon guy wants the North in exchange for what? Fighting the Starks? He's doing that already, and for free. So he basically, the Tywin basically inverts the Joker's argument in The Dark Knight, you know? When Heath Ledger says, if you're good at something, why do it for free? Which I guess is where Balon Greyjoy borrowed a page from. But Tywin's idea is no. Let's just wait for a quote-unquote better option. Tapping his nose with his index finger. A better option will certainly come along. And it's at this point that Tyrion gets really suspicious of his father. Because he goes, oh, whoa. What does he mean, better option? What better option does he have in mind? Is this what he meant when he said, some wars are won with ink, quills, papers, ravens? You know, letters, all right? Yeah. This was back in Tyrion 1, you know, the same book here. When Tyrion visited his father in his study, while the latter was busy scribbling some top-secret dispatches. And I find it interesting because there's this parallel. Listen to this. A lord must learn that sometimes words can accomplish what swords cannot. Guess who said this? It was this line was uttered by Catelyn in a Clash of Kings, Catelyn 9. Weirdly foreshadowing Tywin's words to Tyrion in that chapter I just mentioned, dear listener. So anyway, Tyrion just asks himself who this better option might be. And right in the next line, Kevin just goes, perhaps we ought to move on to the wedding. Oh my God, did you see that? Did you see what just happened? I mean, you know that this cannot be a coincidence, right? I mean, I'm saying this in case you are not a first-time reader. But then again, if you are, I'd better choose my words carefully, not to spoil anything. But the fact that the word wedding is mentioned right after a character wonders what Tywin's secret plan might be, far from being a coincidence, is actually part of the famous, a threefold revelation George R.R. Martin deploys here and there. His editor, Anne Grohl, if that's how it's pronounced, talked about this threefold revelation in an interview. You can find it online by simply typing this direct quote I got right here. Now that I've realized this threefold revelation strategy, I see it in play almost every time. The first subtle hint for the really astute readers followed later, in a later chapter, that's my addition, by a more blatant hint for the less attentive, followed by just spelling it out for everyone else. It's a brilliant strategy and highly effective. Yeah, well, in this case, rather than subtle hint, I'd say this hint is even subliminal. I mean, just the word wedding. Anyway, I said too much already. Let's just say that Tywin's evil plan might involve a certain wedding, and we'll leave it at that, okay? So, moving on, we learned that some 300 Dornish men are marching to King's Landing to attend the wedding, Joffrey's and Marjorie's wedding. At which point Mace's vein on his forehead nearly pops because he doesn't remember any Dornish prince asking him for a transit visa on his to cross his lands in the Reach, which probably they don't need to because as Tyrion thinks to himself, the Dornish, when and if they want to get to King's Landing, all they have to is they just have to climb the bone, and there goes my cat. The cat seems to agree. Climb the Boneway, turn east near Summerhall, and come up the King's Road. So there. He's resolutely against this itinerary, apparently. The cat is. I don't know why. Just it doesn't seem to fancy the Boneway. Maybe the Boneway, because, yeah. Right, anyway, so Cersei once again misses the point, and she just goes, so what? Dornishmen. We can just squeeze a few more benches and there'll be room for everybody. She's not written as a terribly... Do you think she's already in the habit of attending these council meetings a bit tipsy, shall we say? Because later on her drinking habits will kind of like get out of hand in later books. Well, in one later book, really, because there's only one with Cersei in it. No, sorry, I'm lying. No. Two towards the end. Anyway, let's not digest. Let's not digress. The fact is, the reason why the time Mace is all like, no, because there's always been this enmity between Tyrells and Martells. And the fact that Willas Tyrell lost the use on one of his legs because Prince Oberyn beat him at a tourney, causing his horse to fall on him, certainly did not help. We learned all that in the previous Sansa chapter. Anyway, it's Tywin who says, look, if Prince Doran Martell wants to come to King's Landing, he has every right to do so, because A, he has been given a seat on this very council, same as you, Mace. B, he will attend the wedding at my invitation. No, it's at Tyrion's invitation, because this is Tywin speaking. Sorry, let's not get confused. He's been invited by Tyrion. What, you got a problem with that? And C, finally, he will also be here to get some justice, for the whole dark affair of the time when his sister Elia was murdered, along with her 2 children. Not a pretty business. During that dark page of Robert's rebellion, Doran never got any justice from Robert, you see. Yeah, and the trophy for hypocrisy goes to Tywin, because everybody just goes, oh, because at the small council, Tywin is not the only hypocrite right here in this passage, because everybody else just goes, oh, well, okay, I suppose if you put it like that. Wait, what? Because what's passing through everyone's mind right now is, yeah, right, Tywin. But, excuse me, imagine a William Shatner meme, raising his index finger. Excuse me, wasn't it you who gave the order in the first place? Aren't you the capo di tutti capi in mob parlance? Especially that what do you call it? What's his name? Mathis Rowan seems to like stir in his seat. He seems to want to say something. Seems to want to say precisely that, but then he stops. Also, may I point out that this same Mathis Rowan is the same guy who expressed outrage at the news way back at the news that Jaime Lannister had not been executed after being captured at the Whispering Woods. This was way back in Clash of Kings, Catelyn II, when Mathis Rowan was still part of Renly's team. Yeah, that happened. I kept score, you can check. And Tywin had better never find out, huh? I wonder if George R. Martin wants to go somewhere with this notion of Mathis Rowan not exactly being the Lannisters, number one fan in secret, in private. Like some plot twist maybe at some point and some character going, I'm afraid my friend, your friend Mathis is really my friend Mathis. Award yourself 5 points if you got that quote and what movie it's from, dear listener. But so far in the published books, there's nothing of the sort. Mathis Rowan, just flies low, keeps a low profile, doesn't antagonize the Lannisters any further. Because as right now, the council is wise enough to keep his mouth shut right here. And Tywin goes unchallenged. And Mace is all like, oh, no, that's okay. Right? Doran is cool, don't get me wrong. He's okay in my book. It's not Doran I'm pissed off at. It's his brother Oberyn. Stage name, the Red Viper. Yeah, I rather like that. Snake, I rather like that. The Red Viper. He's a bit of a naughty boy, isn't he? Yeah. So it's a terribly good job that it's Doran and not at all Oberyn who's coming here to King's Landing, right? Right. Okay. Moving on. The next item on the agenda is, well, it's a long agenda. Is the division of the spoils of war. Luckily, there's a lot of spoils to go around for everyone. For one thing, Alistair Florent, remember him? We learned in the latest Davos chapter that he's the newly appointed hand of King Stannis. He's been dispossessed of all his lands, who are now going to Mace Tyrell. A guy with a huge appetite, remarks Tyrion in his thoughts. Well, to be more precise, these lands go to, and various other assets, go to Mace's second son, Garland, a really nice bloke. Lord Rowan gets his own share, other, bits and pieces. We're not exactly told what. And other bits are set aside for Lord... Thank you, I wasn't going to forget that. Tarly, Lady Oakhart, Lord Hightower... And Paxter Redwine is only interested in tax breaks on some vintage wine he sells to the Crown lands. Welcome to corporate Westeros. Then there's the story of the High Septon's crown. Interesting. I wonder whether this is going somewhere in future books. You might remember that during the riot, back in a Clash of Kings, the High Septon had been ripped apart by the crowd, maddened at seeing a fat High Septon. They'd never seen a person as fat as that, well-nourished, one who, preaches humility and all that. And the Septon, the High Septon's crystal crown was missing, where the man's remains were found. But now Kevin informs the council that Adam Marbrand, as new commander of the City Watch, has did find some of the bits of crystal. Forget about the crown. That was made of gold, so poof, that's gone. But whoever made with the valuable bits of the crown left the crystals behind. So now we know that a new High Septon is sitting in his office, appointed by Tyrion. He's actually there, sitting at the small council, as he rightly should do, because the High Septon is by default a member of the small council, and he's appointed by Tyrion. So it's one of Tyrion's men, but he hasn't been officially crowned yet. So the plan is to have a new High Septon crown forged. Do you know, I don't remember really. Does this plot point resurface at some point? Like, will it become important later on, or is this crown affair just planted there to remind us of stuff that went on in the previous books? I don't remember, to be honest. I knew about one plot point that is important, although Varys deliberately reports it mixed with some fake news to downplay its importance, you know. First, he reports about a kraken being spotted near the fingers. Then the usual Cold War about to become hot again between the three quarrelsome daughters. This time Tyrosh and Lys being on the verge of war, both of them hoping to win Lys to their side. But this too is nothing new. I mean, those three cities are like East Asia, Eurasia, and Oceania in 1984, constantly at war against each other in different configurations. And in the middle of it all, Varys casually dumps another update, albeit slightly twisted, which really should be taken seriously. A three-headed dragon was born in Karth. Now, he's of course referring to Daenerys' three dragons, as well he knows, but pretends he only has sketchy and twisted info on the whole thing. So predictably, Tywin dismisses all this dumpster of supposedly fake news. See, so Varys is off the hook. Now, in the future, he can always say, hey, look, I did give you my reports. You didn't take them seriously. I did tell you about the three-headed dragon. You know, if in a future chapter, three dragons should indeed turn up at King's Landing, which I honestly don't know, but I feel it's bound to happen. I don't know. Then again, you know, knowing how this series is tends to be, you know, tends to deconstruct tropes. What if Daenerys never shows up at all? Oh no, readers would be pissed off. Like, you know, if she was killed of dysentery, like it looked like was going to happen at some point towards the end of Dance with Dragons. I'll shut up right now, okay? Anyway, at this point in the story, of course, we all know that Varys has some vague affiliation with Team Daenerys, although all we have to work on is that he was spotted plotting with Magister Illyrio Mopatis at some point by Arya. And although really, I mean, were they really working in tandem? Because on the one hand, you know, one of those two guys sends hitmen to kill Daenerys, and then the other warns Viserys of an attack, an attempt on their lives. So this all happened in book one. Are they really working in tandem? Or to which point they're just going through the motions, faking with either the crown or Robert in that case, or each other? I really, the whole thing was really confusing. Anyway, so Tywin is all like, yeah, whatever, spare me this crap about dragons and krakens. Has Tyrek been found? See, Tyrek is this 13-year-old boy. Is it Tigget? I'll tell you what, I'm pronouncing it Tigget, because I seem to remember that his family used to call him Tig, Tywin's and Kevan's brother. They spelled Tyg, so Tig, I guess. I don't think it's Tigget. Anyway, so Tigget. I'm going to pronounce it Tigget. He's Tywin's and Kevan's younger brother. Tyrion remembers this Tig, Uncle Tig, fondly as his favorite uncle. or nuncle, I guess, if memory serves. And we learned that he died from the pox years ago. But his son, this kid, Tyrek, along with Lancel, was squire to King Robert back then, back in the days. But he disappeared in the King's Landing's riot. So here's another connection between that chapter in A Clash of Kings and this one. So no, nobody knows where he is. And again, who knows if this loose end will be dealt with in a future novel. Someone said, you know what, Varys is more likely the captor, the kidnapper. But I don't see why. Maybe I'm being really dumb. Final item on the agenda. Adam Marbrand wants to know what to do with those members of the City Watch who deserted during the war and are now trying to get back in their barracks like nothing happened. To which Tywin casually goes, yeah, let's break their knees and throw them out in the streets. Whoa. Varys gets all squeamish. Whoa. What's that? That's a bit dark, isn't it? I mean, can't we just send them to the wall, which I am told is in dire need of men and could be attacked by the wildlings any time? But Tywin, no, Tywin will have none of that. See, his reasoning goes something like that. So what if the wildlings attack the wall and invade the north? So what? I mean, the north no longer wishes to be subject to the Iron Throne, it would seem. So by what rights do they look to the Iron Throne for aid? King Robb and King Balon both claim the north. Let them defend it, if they can. And if not, this Mance Rayder might even prove a useful ally. See, this flies in the face of everyone claiming that Tywin is this brilliant strategist. He's not. See, that's what he said, but I just quoted him. That was a direct quote. But you can see how easily this reasoning could be turned around. Tywin. If, as you claim, you and the king are protectors of the realm, well then shouldn't you protect the realm? Isn't that on page 1 of the handbook titled, So You're the New King's Hand? That should be, at least in chapter 1 at the very least. I'm sure that there is such a manual or a handbook. Because, look, if on the other hand, you, Tywin, exclude the north from your protection, then surely aren't you kind of conceding that the north is not part of the realm? Got you there. Anyway, since there are no AOB, any other business items on the agenda, the meeting finally concludes, and only the 4 Lannisters remain in the council chamber. Everyone else leaves, so it's time to cut the crap and get down to real business. So, whose idea was it to make me Master of Coin? Tyrion demands to know. And of course it was Peter Baelish who suggested it. Who else, right? So given all the clues we have that the crown is deep in depth, you know it. Deep in debt. No, not depth. Deep in debt is indebted. And that the Lannister Corporation isn't currently producing any gold. You might remember that the Great John had seized the gold mines at Castamere, Nuns Deep, and the Pendrick Hills. I'm quoting here from A Clash of Kings, Catelyn 5. I mean, the bottom line is the crown is broke, yeah? And Littlefinger has been cooking the books for years. The situation is probably even worse after a year plus of war. So Baelish has been conjuring, golden dragons out of thin air, You know what? It's kind of like the Federal Reserve, according to those truthers, the alternative research community, as they prefer to be called, when they go on about fiat currency, So the point is, when the truth finally emerges in all its horror, it's Tyrion who will end up as the fall guy, the patsy, the scapegoat, much to Littlefinger's satisfaction. Of course, Tyrion could always turn around and go, just always, use the line, the favorite line, so cherished by politicians. We inherited this situation from the previous administration. Aha. He could say that, I suppose. But still. Because, even if it's not clearly stated, yeah, if it's not clearly stated, Littlefinger does have a beef with Tyrion, and vice versa. Really, where do we begin? Off the top of my head, there's the little Harrenhal issue, for one thing. Right now, Peter Baelish is the quote-unquote legitimate proprietor of Harrenhal, but it wasn't so long ago that Tyrion had him salivating at the prospect of being lord of that very same property in such a prime location, I must say. By dangling Harrenhal in front of Littlefinger's greedy eyes, when he did his little deception, to weed out Cersei's informer. And when the truth came out that Harrenhal wasn't his to give, or that it had been granted to Janos Slynt, if memory serves. So right now, I guess his sons might want to have a claim on it, although they've probably been stripped of. This is very confusing. Anyway, so at that point, when Littlefinger thought that he had lost Harrenhal for good, which he did at the time until now, he just lost his customary, smug, cool attitude and just went, "I do not like being lied to, my lord. Leave me out of your next deception," he said to Tyrion. And he didn't forget. He didn't forget that had been taken for a ride by Tyrion. And that's in Tyrion VI, A Clash of Kings. Wow, I'm on fire right now. And we know how petty and vindictive Littlefinger can be, right? Or if we don't quite know, we'll find out soon enough. And also, can I mention the little, the other matter of the dagger that Littlefinger framed Tyrion with? The dagger used to kill Bran in a botched attempt to kill Bran by that very incompetent catspaw. Eddard and Catelyn had asked about it back in Book 1. And Littlefinger was like, "Oh, yeah, it used to be mine. But then I lost it to Tyrion at the tourney. You see, the Hand of the King's tourney, was it? You see, he bet that Jaime would lose at a duel or a melee or something, I forget. And sure enough, Tyrion won the bet. Which we later find out was not true, because Tyrion himself said that he never bets, that's his principle, his habit. He never bets against his own family. So that could possibly be true. He never bets against his own family when it comes to gambling, not life in general. But also we had it confirmed, because Tyrion might have been lying. We had it confirmed by a party that had no interest in lying, Renly. I don't know if you remember this, but in Eddard VI, there's another tourney. There's that same tourney where I believe Sansa saves Dontos' life. It's that tourney. It's a minor tourney. Was it for Joffrey's name day? Could be wrong. Anyway, it's in Eddard VI, and Renly says, "Oh, pity the imp is not here with us," Lord Renly said. "I should have won twice as much. Because he's talking about Jaime losing, I think, as far as if memory serves. which directly contradicts Littlefinger's narrative that Tyrion had bet against Jaime in the previous tourney. And what I find funny is that this exchange, this dialogue with Renly takes place just within Eddard's earshot. If only Ned had paid attention, if only Eddard had picked on that and asked for clarification. What do you mean you would have won twice as much money? Yeah, well, because we all know that Tyrion would have bet on Jaime and would have lost. I think that's what happened. I mean, don't quote me on that, but just look it up. It's there on in Eddard 6. Well, a great Game of Thrones, because where else would an Eddard chapter be? Anyway, so coming back to this, Tywin is all like, what are you complaining about? Master of Coin, what do you want now? Casterly Rock is off the table. Forget it. You're not getting that. And that office makes you a member of the small council. You always wanted to be part of things, in the loop, and you are in the loop. So what if you have to count coppers? As the late Robert used to say, it's still an important office. And Cersei is all like, yeah, what's the matter? You can't hack it? You useless with... The two siblings start immediately. As soon as the council is dismissed, these two are like two toddlers. I don't care who started. He started, she started it. I don't care who started. I'll finish it. So they start bickering like children, which drives, Tywin nuts. At which point Kevin interjects and points out that it's still better to have Lord Baelish as ruler of the Eyrie than any other of those, Lysa Arryn's suitors. And this is where we hear the names of those Lords of the Vale. Johan Royce. Okay, Royce is a familiar house. We encountered that name in the prologue of Book 1. Lynn Corbray will turn up to be important. Horton Redford, these will be relevant in the Feast for Crows. Feast of Crows. No, Feast for Crows. What am I talking about? Also, let's not forget that Baelish is... This is still Kevin rambling going on. Baelish, unlike those lords, is harmless. You see, this is Littlefinger's best weapon. No? You see that? It gets everyone to underestimate him. And Kevin keeps going, yeah, and let's not forget, Lord Baelish is loyal. He just told us of a certain Tyrell plot to whisk Sansa away, to take Sansa to Highgarden, ostensibly on a tourist visa, to marry her to Lord Mace's eldest son, Willas. Now, there's a jaw-dropping moment, because I don't know if you remember, but Sansa didn't tell anyone about this plot. And certainly none of the Tyrells spilled the beans, because the plan was a closely guarded secret. We know that. Olenna hatched it, and she only revealed it to Sansa and Marjorie, and presumably Willas was aware of it, but that's it. So what's the deal? How exactly did Littlefinger learn of that Tyrell plan? Oh, wait, Sansa actually did tell someone, a certain Dontos. Yeah, he was made privy. Aha. So if we were wondering whether Dontos was acting on his own accord, or whether he was actually on someone's payroll, well, I guess we can wonder no more, huh? So anyway, the point is, if the Tyrells announce they're taking Sansa to Highgarden on a visit, no one is in the position to refuse. As causing offense to the Tyrells would be unwise. So Tywin has come up with an ingenious plan. Let's have a few more weddings to redistribute these people around. And then he points at Cersei. You, for example. The Cersei won't have any of that. She's not pleased. No, 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 no. I've already been married once. Enough is enough. Yeah, etc., etc. But Tywin isn't even listening at this point. He's all like, let's see. I could marry you to Balon Greyjoy. But then I don't know if I want us to get in bed with that guy. Haven't you heard, Father? I'm not getting married again. But Tywin is on a roll. He's let's see, there's Oberyn Martell, but the Tyrells would not like that. I have considered the Red Wine twins, Theon Greyjoy. Theon Greyjoy, really? Theon Greyjoy, does anyone know what happened to him? I mean, it was rhetorical, just in case you're a first-time reader. Didn't he die in the capture of Winterfell at the hands of that naughty boy, what's his name? Ramsay Snow, Roose Bolton's son. Never mind. We'll get back to Theon. But yeah, it was certainly could have been in the cards. Quentin Martell, mentioned here for the first time. I have considered a number of others, but really, if we want to stop that marriage between dire wolves and roses, once and for all, it looks like the best option is that you, Cersei, marry that Willas Tyrell. Meanwhile, Cersei is having a fit, and Tyrion is having a blast. He's loving it. He's thinking to himself, oh my God, look at her. Oh, this feels so good. It must be illegal or fattening at the very least. He just enjoys seeing Cersei in distress. In the end, it looks like, Cersei will have to bite the bullet. Although when you think about it, what makes Tywin so certain that the Tyrells will consent? Unless he has already a plan in mind to take care of Sansa, making it impossible for Willas to marry her. You see what's coming next? So what happens next is that Cersei storms out of the room in a rage, and Tywin turns to Tyrion. Okay, Tyrion. Now he goes, just enough of your whoring. That's always a great way to start a conversation. You're getting married too. And Tyrion really doesn't need too many hints to realize that the plan is to marry him to Sansa Stark. Here are a couple of quotes. His Grace, this is Tyrion, His Grace the royal postule, he's referring to Joffrey, has made Sansa's life a misery since the day her father died. And now that she's finally rid of Joffrey, you propose to marry her to me. That seems singularly cruel, even for you, father. Classic. But Tywin isn't interested in Sansa's happiness, as shocking as it sounds. No, Tywin is interested in Tyrion marrying the girl, taking her maidhood right away so no one can say the marriage wasn't consummated. Quick reminder, if I may, the girl is 13. Ew. Oh, anyway, take her maidenhood so no one can say that the marriage wasn't consummated, and thus facilitate the Lannister claim on Winterfell. Voila! And look, Tyrion, it has to be you. No other Lannister. I mean, we have considered other Lannisters, but we seem to be in short supply of suitable Lannisters. Lancel seems to have one foot in the grave. I would have suggested one of the twins. I'm not sure which twins. He says, the Starks hold them both at Riverrun. And they have Jenna's boy Tyrion, as well. I think these characters are mentioned mainly to remind us readers that they exist, because they will turn up again literally in the next chapter, Catelyn's something or other. It's Catelyn's chapter anyway. POV. And Tyrion, however, hesitates because he's thinking of Shay, And Tywin is all like, you disappoint me, Tyrion. I had hoped this match would please you. And then an interesting exchange takes place, which kind of came out of the left field for me anyway. Because Tyrion goes, yeah, speaking of Balon Greyjoy, I mean, he also has a daughter. If you're in such a hurry to marry me off, why not her? Which, as I said, is kind of like an unexpected comeback, true. But considering that Asha is hot and of age, I mean, sensible choice is all I'll say. Well done, Tyrion. But Tywin's argument is, if I read it right, it sort of goes like this. No, Tyrion, listen. No, listen, yeah. If you take Winterfell as in the capacity of latest member of Household Greyjoy, it will be in plunder, as a reaver. And the Northern Lords will always resent you. And eventually they'll kick your arse. But, on the other hand, if you go to Winterfell as Sansa's husband, her with a bun in the oven, that is to say a future legitimate heir to Winterfell, then the Northerners will unfurl red carpets for you guys. How about that? See, my plans are waterproof. What do you complain about? At which point Tyrion does complain. He said, well, Father, yes. That's all very well and good, but aren't you forgetting something? I mean, Robb is the actual heir to Winterfell, remember? And he's still alive. The minute he gets that Frey girl of his pregnant, poof, there go all my claims to that place. But Tywin is unconcerned. Okay, right, listen up, yeah? First of all, he goes, Robb is not marrying any Frey girl. He's actually wiped his royal behind with the promise he made to join the two houses, the Starks and the Freys. And he's gone and married a Jane Westerling. Remember the Westerlings? Lord Gawain Westerling and his wife Sibel Spicer. Their daughter. Remember them? At which point Tyrion's jaw drops again. But before he can say anything, Kevin just gives us readers some very interesting exposition. So darn interesting, actually, for two reasons. Okay, so this is what he says, Kevin. He informs us, readers, that first of all, he tells us he has little consideration for the Spicers, because they're just, new money in his eyes. So Jane's ancestors from her mother's side, these are the Spicers, and they started their career, their arc as lowborn, just spice traders, hence Spicer. And this is where it gets interesting. Lady Sibel's grandmother was some woman brought back from the east. A frightening old crone, supposed to be a priestess. Magi, they called her. No one could pronounce her real name. Half of Lannisport used to go to her for cures and love potions and the like. See what I mean? Okay, this is very interesting info for two reasons. First reason, remember when I commented in Catelyn 2 that there seems to be in those western lands a presence of Magi, is that how it's... I give up on the pronunciation. Magi, that's it. That's how we'll pronounce it. Same title as, the Three Wise Kings. So, yeah, there seems to be a presence of these strange Magi who, from ASOS. So my reasoning was, is it possible that among the potions that King Robb was given by Jane, but prepared by her mother Sibel, is it possible that Jane, when ostensibly she was nursing him back to health in the Westerling's castle, could it be that Lady Sibel actually slipped him a good old love potion, like in any fairy tale worth its salt? And now we have Kevin explicitly mentioning love potions, an art that Lady Sibel may well have learned from her grandmother. Ha! How about that? Huh? And the second reason, which I only realized on reread, is that this crone, this Maggie, this is not Maggie, the dye, the soup dye. This Maggie, yeah. Why don't we pronounce it Maggie from now on for reasons that will become obvious in the future? From this Maggie from the East is in fact the same character we will encounter in a super important flashback from a certain character's childhood in A Feast for Crows. Except that we're not given, we're just always just given bits and pieces of that subplot scattered in across several chapters. So it takes the reader some time to place the pieces together. And I'd better shut up about it right now in case you, gentle reader, gentle listener, haven't read book 4 yet. I know I said it before, but the temptation is there to talk too much, basically. And at this point, what puzzles Tyrion is the fact that his father doesn't seem all that enraged at the Westerlings' betrayal. So he just has to ask. These Westerlings slash Spicers, this family of idiots, I mean, let's face it, they risk everything they own over this marriage just for turning their cloaks in favor of the Starks, the King of the North. I mean, don't they know that you, Tywin, have a bit of a reputation for casual genocide and total annihilation of entire bloodlines whenever someone looks at you in the wrong way? At which point, Tywin threatens to smile, which is terrifying. For the first time in like 30 years, he might have cracked half a smile. As if to say, I know something you don't, he seems to say. But really, all he says is, never you mind about that. Ha ha. You go ahead and marry Sansa Stark, and fast. And everything will be just dandy. Don't you worry about the Westerlings slash Spicers. There might be an under-the-table sort of agreement going on here that I will not inform you, gentle reader, about until due time. That is, wow. That's it. I really ought to. I'm sorry, I keep saying no spoilers, but I always, I just go borderline. Just, oh, you will find out. Okay, shut up. No more. Well, no more. Literally no more, because this is what concludes this exhausting chapter. I mean, wow, so much, so many strands and loose ends that will be tied in due time. But that was fun, and thank you, dear listener, for following me thus far. And if you enjoyed this kind of content, don't forget to do the things that people do under such circumstances, or not. And I personally look forward to talking to you again in the next chapter, which, as I said, is our next Catelyn chapter. Wow, I can hardly wait. And speak to you soon. See you around. Bye.